is the City Whisperer, and while I'm in the streets, you're in the sheets. I use my whispers and the white noise of the city that never sleeps to help you fall asleep. So cozy up, close your eyes. Let's get started. Surrounded by a red brick wall and black iron gates on Mott and Mulberry Streets between Prince and East Houston Streets lies the Basilica of St. Patrick's Old Cathedral. On either side of the basilica lies a 200-year-old cemetery, each side accessible by a black iron door, and each door equipped with a peephole. You may recognize both the doors and the cemetery from Martin Scorsese's Mean Streets, as the cemetery is where the characters Charlie and Johnny Boy hide from the cops.
Hey, remember all the times we used to play hide and seek in here? Never mind the hide and seek. What's this crap about last week?
The cornerstone for the church was laid on June 8th, 1809, and the sanctuary was dedicated on May 14th, 1815. It was designed by Joseph Francois Manchon in the Gothic Revival style that was popular at the time. Joseph Francois would go on to design New York City Hall. Upon completion, not only was it the largest church in the city, but it was also the largest indoor space in the city. From its humble beginnings as a Catholic parish church, it was upgraded to a cathedral when it became home to the bishops of the Archdiocese of New York, and then received basilica status based on its architecture as well as its importance to the Pope because of its role, its association with a saint, and the important historical events that happened there. Under the sidewalk at the front entrance of the church lies John Dubois, the third bishop of the Catholic Diocese of New York. He was the first non-Irish-born bishop of New York. He established several parishes and founded schools, including the first Catholic girls' school in the U.S., co-founded with Elizabeth Ann Seton. And despite his tenure being successful, because he was a Frenchman, he had an accent and he was mocked for it. He wanted to be buried under the sidewalk at the entrance so people could, quote, walk on me in death as they wished to in life, unquote. The stone on the ground now is not the original stone. This one here in the wall is the original stone. The reason for that is that there was a fire on October 6th, 1866, due to some negligence with candles in a neighboring building. Nearly everything but the outer walls was destroyed, but the church was rebuilt and rededicated on March 17th, 1868 at, you guessed it, the Feast of St. Patrick. Here is the Mulberry Street side of the church before the fire, and here it is after the fire. Here is the Mott Street side of the church before the fire and after the fire. Also of note here is a plaque of St. John Newman.
Newman!
Born in Bohemia, which is now the Czech republic. He eventually became the Bishop of Philadelphia. He was canonized in 1977 by Pope John Paul VI, making him the first American male saint. This is a plaque commemorating the lives and contributions of a couple of founding priests who are buried in the cemeteries under unmarked graves. I think the graves are unmarked so that they would not be desecrated, as there was a lot of both Irish and Catholic hate and discrimination from the natives of New York, which are what the Dutch and other early settlers, as well as those born in New York, considered themselves. So basically, it's not much different than how people that are born here, or people that have been here for a long time, think of Midwestern transplants. These glass panels are covering the steps down into the catacombs, which are underneath the church. The glass is normally not roped off, but there had been a recent snowstorm, and they think that the combination of the cold of the snow and the heat of the snowblower caused the glass to crack. Now we come to a sculpture of John J. Hughes by Rowan Gillespie. John J. Hughes arrived in New York City in 1837 and was ordained as bishop of the cathedral in 1842, making him the fourth archbishop of the diocese. During his tenure, he helped found the Immigrant Savings Bank, as well as the university that would go on to become Fordham University. John Hughes was given the nickname Dagger John, both because the cross next to his signature resembled a dagger and because he had a very sharp tongue. In response to the constant threat of nativist Protestants to burn down Catholic churches, Dagger John was said to tell the mayor that if a single Catholic church were burned in New York, the city would become a second Moscow, referencing the scorched earth approach Napoleon took when he invaded Moscow. The mayor is said to have reassured John that he would protect the Catholic churches, to which Dagger John responded that he was more worried about Protestant churches at the hands of his people. John J. Hughes is also one of the main reasons religion is not taught in public schools. You can see that one of these plaques on the cemetery gate thanks the Ancient Order of Hibernians. The Ancient Order of Hibernians is a fraternal organization founded in 1836 in New York City to protect Catholics, more specifically Irish Catholics, from the natives and the Protestants who looked upon Irish immigrants and Irish Catholics as un-American and uncivilized. Now let's bring our attention back to the brick wall that surrounds the cemetery. You can see that the brick parts are actually quite old. They're over 200 years old, and the lighter pink parts have been added on over time to prevent the wall from collapsing and leaning in. Now this wall was meant mostly as protection because, like I said, the natives and Protestants did not like the Irish, and they did not like the Irish Catholics, so they built this wall around the church to act as a sort of defense against the angry mobs. Often the Hibernians could be seen on the surrounding buildings with weapons on hand to defend the church and the people inside of the church. This was so commonplace that there is a scene in Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York depicting one such instance of natives and Protestants attacking this church and the Irish Catholic community defending it.
eye-catching spectacle.
Today, that red brick wall is used more for markets and craft fairs than defense, although it does keep people out of the cemetery, and the Hibernians are in more of a preservation and education role and less of a stand on the surrounding buildings ready to shoot someone role. Interesting fact, Hibernia is the Latin name for Ireland, so Hibernian basically means Irish, and if you want to join your local chapter of Hibernians, you must be male, Irish, and Catholic. So, good luck.
Have you heard about
Stay tuned for part